Welcome to my allotment. It's the middle of December and today I'm going to be taking you for a tour around the allotment and showing you some of the jobs you can be doing and that I'm going to be doing in December. So if you've not already subscribed to my channel, if you could please do so, because you'll get lots of helpful hints and tips all throughout the year from my home garden, my allotment and also my home kitchen. Now, one of the jobs that I'm going to be doing during the next month is I'm going to be tidying up my artichokes, my globe artichokes. So as you can see, the new leaves for next year's growth are already forming and they're looking absolutely fantastic. But what I will need to do, I'll need to remove all this dead wood here. Now sometimes it will just snap off, but you might have to get a little saw right down to the bottom and just gently get it out. Because it's quite thick, you know, you're not going to be able to get your secateurs around that. So that's a job that you can be doing if you've not already done it. So another job you could be doing is if you want to split your rhubarb, you could be doing that now. So that's my rhubarb there. So if you wanted to split that, now would be a really good time to split that. I've covered mine with horse manure because it gives it a really good feed over the winter. That's something that I do pretty much every year and it really helps with the growth. So that's another job you can be doing. You don't have to worry about it being too rotted either when you put manure on something like that. I defy anyone to kill their rhubarb when it's quite established. It does nothing but good to it. Other jobs you could be doing, if you've not already got any fruit canes or fruit trees planted, now is a good time to plant the bare root varieties. So you could be looking for some varieties to get planted. I've already got plenty of fruit in my allotment, so for me it's going to be tidying it up and pruning it. So what you're looking for on your apple tree or on your apples and pear trees are anything that's crossing over, anything that looks dead you're cutting off at the moment. My brownie apple is getting a little bit out of control, so I will be nipping that down. That's a job I definitely want to do. And anything that I think is crossing over, like you've got bits that are almost crossing over here, they'd rub against each other and could cause disease. So those are the kinds of things you're looking for at the moment if you're doing pruning with that. With raspberries, there's two types of raspberries. There's autumn fruiting and summer fruiting. The autumn ones, I completely cut them to the floor. Every single cane I cut off. The summer fruiting varieties are different. You just remove the dead wood and you leave the new canes. Very different. If you cut all the canes off on your summer fruiting, you're unlikely to get any fruit. So make sure you know the difference between the two and you do prune them accordingly. So as we move round, so we've got some other fruit canes here as well. I've also got my blackberries. Now we've already removed some of the dead wood with this, but again we would remove last year's growth. So you can see what last year's growth is because it's got all the old berries on it, you know. So we know that's one of the ones that we want to be removing, and that's another one. It just goes completely crazy and far too high. So again, we either trail the blackberries over, or the same thing like with the apple tree that's getting too big, we'll lop the tops off because they're just too big. So you know, it's all about a little bit of tidying up as well. The gooseberries and the blackcurrants, you prune, you take out some of the older looking wood. Now gooseberries often look a little bit tatty full stop, so you just have to have a bit of a look round and look for the stems that you think look the oldest. And again, the same thing, if things are crossing over, the same kind of thing, and you want air to get round the base of it as well, because that also helps to stop disease. Similar thing with the blackcurrants, you take out what looks like the older stems, and again you're trying to get air around the base because the good airflow means you're less likely to get disease. So that's a job I will be doing. As we move down, I'm not saying I'll get it all done in December, but it's a job I can be doing in December. If you've not already netted your brassicas, which you probably have, but if you haven't, it is a really good idea to net them, because they can often get eaten by the birds, particularly this time of year, because the birds are really struggling for food, and you don't want your dinner to be their dinner. So obviously we feed the birds at home, and we've got a video on fat balls, so if you want to learn how to do that. I completely love the birds and I feed them all the time, but I don't want them feeding off of what I intend to eat myself. So as we walk down, plenty of weeding that I can be doing here, always lots of weeding to be done, and digging ready for next year, cultivating the ground, putting down well rotted manure. So as we move over, another job that I do need to start doing is I need to sort out where my beans were. If I leave this up, we're liable to get high winds, it might snow, it might get knocked to the ground and they might get broken, and I do reuse my canes every year. So I intend to remove the canes, take the pods off. I will store my pods in my summer house because it's a really good place for them to dry out. Hopefully I'll have some for next year, although I've got to say they do all look a little bit sorry for themselves, but I will take them off and hopefully they will dry and I will be able to plant some beans from these next year. I mean, there's quite a big bunch down here actually, so that might be quite a good bunch, and I can feel the beans inside them. But if they're not, you know, I can always buy some new beans. But definitely a good idea if you've still got your canes up to definitely get those down and store them. Otherwise, you know, also the cold weather will really badly affect your canes as well, and you might not be able to use them again next year. So that will save you a bit of money if you store them correctly. So as we move up, I've got my tub that has my comfrey in it. So another job I do every year is, obviously I've been using this comfrey all throughout the year to feed my plants, but just good, you know, good housekeeping, empty it all out, give it a good clean out, ready to start a fresh batch for next year. Because you don't want it, you know, don't want all the old stuff in there, because again, it, you know, might not be so good for the plants. So I really hope that this has given you some inspiration and some ideas of things you can be doing in December if you can bear to be out the cold. Don't beat yourself up too much if you don't want to be up here quite as much as in the summer, but there are still a few jobs you can be doing little and often, just to get a few things done ready for the spring when everything gets started again.